My customers are looking at the eggs and they're like, friends, I have a confession. As you're all aware, our ladies here have started laying eggs, but here is the problem. My customers are looking at the eggs and they're like, these ones are too small. And I honestly understand. So let's talk about egg mysteries. Why some eggs come out so tiny and then others come out with funny shapes, and when is it perfectly normal, and when it might actually be a sign of trouble. Have you ever walked into your coop and found these tiny eggs, or funny shaped eggs, or even yolkless eggs? There are some eggs without yolks. Have you ever experienced such a problem? Of course, for farmers who are just starting out on poultry farming, it could be a bit confusing and worrying and troubling, but you'll be surprised for, hey, make sure you do not eat out my eyes. So I was saying that you'll be surprised to find that actually this situation of small eggs, yolkless eggs, or funny-shaped eggs, it's more common than we might actually imagine, but the reason matters. So to understand why eggs vary, let's look inside the hen. So this hen here, this one here, it takes it 24 hours for it to be able to form an egg. Recently, because I've started selling eggs to my neighbors, so they come and be like, we thought hens actually lay 2 eggs a day. It was funny, right? But of course, there's so many mysteries about hens that people do not understand. So I explained some who seemed to not believe what I was saying. They were stuck to their belief, and of course I couldn't bother to explain to them more. So I was saying it takes about 24 hours for a hen to make an egg, and it all starts in the ovary. In the ovary, this is where a yolk forms. Yolk, that's the yellow part with proteins, vitamins, and fats, So once the yolk forms, it travels to the ovduct. In the ovduct, this is where the egg white, the shell membrane, and finally the shell is. And this process has to be smooth, without any interruptions. And sometimes this process is actually disrupted, hence resulting into our mystery eggs. So it might get disrupted by the following factors. Number one reason, it could be young hens. When young hens, or we call them pullets, have just started laying maybe for a few weeks, their bodies, look at them, their systems are just getting used to this new experience of birthing an egg. So sometimes they might do it in a rush way, sometimes it could be, something might go amiss. So they end up giving you the small egg, or the funny shaped egg, or the yolkless egg, But with time, the egg can actually get bigger. So that's the one reason. The other reason may be for a yolkless egg, an egg without a yolk. It's because during the egg making process, a tiny piece of tissue might trigger this process and trigger into making the yolkless egg, and the result will be that type of egg that we are talking about, that mystery egg, because the system has been triggered to form that. It shouldn't really be a problem unless it's happening frequently. Okay, that's when you might start sensing some trouble. The other cause for disruption in the process of the egg making, it's actually the stress. As we all know, stress is a very bad thing for our hens, or like in poultry, stress is a very bad thing. So a stressed chicken will not be able to complete that cycle, forming an egg properly, and as a result, we shall have those teeny tiny eggs that we are talking about. Okay, stress might be in terms of changes in the feeds. If you abruptly change the feeds, it could also be in the weather. Like for example, right now it's getting a bit wet before it's been a bit sunny. So those changes, it could be overcrowding if your coop is abnormally crowded. It could also be a predator, especially from those birds that make lots of noises. So once the chickens sense that there's a predator, then it may disrupt that process of forming a high quality egg. Okay, the other issue that may disrupt that process is actually the nutrition. Without proper proteins, without proper calcium, without proper vitamins, we can't have those big high quality eggs with good shells that we are looking for, and even with good colors. There's so many mysterious eggs. There are those cases where you'll have this brown hairline brown chicken laying a white egg. In such instances, you may have to sense that there is something which is wrong. Okay, so nutrition is very, very crucial. So small eggs shouldn't be a problem unless it's happening over and over again. If your hens keep laying small eggs for weeks or even months, then it's time to investigate. The possible culprits could be nutritional deficiencies. It could be that your chickens have reproductive tract infection. The other thing could be internal parasites, and that's the time you may need to, actually do the deworming. All right. It shouldn't really worry you. In such instances where things are getting bad, like you're not seeing any improvement, now this is the time you may actually want to call a vet, someone who understands poultry, because remember, early treatment can keep your flock healthy and keep those eggs actually coming. But if you neglect that process, then it might cost you, like it might affect you in one way or the other. Basing on my current situation, where from my own understanding of the situation, actually I'm not letting these small tiny eggs stop me from making cells from the eggs. Copy what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I've labeled these eggs as starter eggs. I'm like, hey, salam alaikum. I have starter eggs. These are perfect for kids and snacks. They are just good for snacking and perfect for kids. So I've labeled my eggs as starter eggs, so everyone knows. The other thing is I'm mixing them in these big ones. When these hens start laying, they don't start at the same time. So you may realize that the one that started earlier, its egg will have improved maybe after some weeks, and then there are these ones that are just joining in the laying flock. So what you do, you throw in the tiny one here and there, and you sell. That's what I do. The other thing actually I do is I price them a bit lower than these other eggs. For example, if I'm selling a tray for normal eggs, these ones with desirable size, if I'm selling it at maybe 11,000 Ghana shillings, these ones I will sell them at maybe 9,000. Be like, I have 3 eggs for 1,000 Ghana shillings. So a tray will go like for 9,000 Ghana shillings. That way, I'm actually targeting those budget buyers. Budget buyers, abagala ebingi ennyo ku ssente entono. So I'm targeting those budget buyers. So that's what I'm doing in my current situation. The other thing you must remember is that actually your customers will really appreciate your honesty. Explain to them that your hens have just started laying, but with time, the quality of the eggs and the size will improve. This is what I tell them. Like, can you imagine? My hens have just started laying, but you see how big the egg is. That means after a few weeks, the egg will even be bigger. Be like, yeah, that's true. Can you imagine? Yeah, and That's how I'm making sales, because I don't have a huge farm, so I'm targeting actually. I'm aiming at pleasing and maintaining a few clients around my neighborhood. That's how I'm doing it. But as you're doing that, remember to remember to keep an eye on your flock. If things are not actually working out well, you should be aiming at improving their diet. First of all, make sure there is enough proteins, there is enough calcium, there is enough vitamins, especially vitamin D. That way you'll be assisting your hens to make high quality eggs. The other thing is avail your chickens with a stress-free environment. Limit on the noises, make sure there's enough aeration in your coop, there's less crowding in your chicken house. Provide them with a stress-free environment. The other thing is consistency. These chickens appreciate consistency and predictability in their timetable. Can you imagine? Actually, these hens, after I had put out a schedule for them, they're the ones that actually reminds me that at 3 we're supposed to have an afternoon meal, and you'll be surprised how aware these hens are. And of course, we're talking about consistent schedule. If your lights off time is this, make sure you put off the lights. Then you wake up and put on the lights. Remember, we are talking about 24 hours of egg formation. So as you're doing all that, consistency is very, very, very important in making sure that the quality of your eggs really improves. So remember, happy hens lay bigger eggs, and of course your customers love consistent quality. They should be able to see an improvement in the quality of your products. There are customers I sold to at first, I didn't even realize that my eggs were smaller, and as we speak now, they don't even want to look at me. But I understand, and I just ignore them. I give them salam, I give them greetings, and I move on because I understand. Of course, I wasn't aware, but when I finally realized, I don't hold any grudge against them. So small eggs aren't a problem as you may think, because it's a common thing. But it only becomes a problem if your hens keep laying those small eggs. So you want to keep a keen eye on your flock. All right. Hey, you want to eat out my eye. So I was saying small eggs ain't really a problem. It's a common phenomenon, and it's a common phenomenon. It's a common thing, and it doesn't matter whether which type of breed is it. It doesn't matter, or what age are your chickens. It's a common thing, but it becomes a problem if it's consistently happening, and that's when you may be required to look out for a possible solution. Alright, if you found this video very helpful, kindly give it a like and share it to other farmers for it to reach a broader audience, so that we may be able to grow together and boost our eggs. Alright, until next time, see you in the next video, and keep raising healthy birds and keep those eggs coming.